A good friend that I respected asked me to be part of a startup program called CASA. My wife and I weren't blessed with children, so children's causes had not been something we had been involved with. However, the logic of having advocates speak up for children who did not have a voice made perfect sense to me. And the number of children in foster care was pretty astounding. Our North Georgia area seems so peaceful and family-oriented, it's hard to believe what's happening to these children. For me, ensuring that each child was represented in court was critical.
I find the most challenging part of being a juvenile judge is thinking with your head instead of your heart.
I think the most challenging part of being a juvenile court judge is really twofold. One is, the simplistic answer is to say making a decision, but that decision affects the rest of a child's life for the most part. And then the other side is watching all the human frailty and the human tragedy unfold in front of you during the course of a hearing.
Court-appointed special advocates, known as CASAs, are volunteers who are appointed by the juvenile court judge to represent children who have been removed from their home due to abuse or neglect. Our CASA volunteers do amazing work. They speak up for children who are dependent upon the state because their parents or caregivers are not able to meet their needs. CASAs are citizen volunteers with an extraordinary commitment to children in foster care. They ensure that the children to whom they are appointed get their emotional, educational, and physical needs met, and that they are placed in a safe, permanent home as soon as possible.
Being a CASA volunteer is important because you're able to influence, impact a child's life from the get-go. You are the voice of that child in every hearing, every matter that comes up. You are the voice for the child. And I'm also a believer in pulling for the underdog. And if there's ever someone that needs help in this process, it's the child.
When you can make a difference in a child's life, what better? What better way to use the skills that you've acquired through life and put them to good use?
Well, qualities I think important for CASA to possess are, number one, compassion for the children they serve, for everybody involved, but especially for that child.
It also calls for a lot of patience. There's a lot of frustration and dependency cases, either with parents, with children, or with the various bureaucratic agencies you're dealing with. Lastly, I would say dedication. And the CASA volunteers, everyone that I have ever had contact with, is very dedicated to what's best for the children.
The most important quality of a CASA is her friendliness and openness, because I was able to talk to her like a friend, and we became friends, and the children just really took to her. She was a person who was warm, welcoming, and very knowledgeable of her job. Without
the CASA volunteers, who I consider, and many judges do, our eyes and ears, it would be very difficult to operate without them.
The first group of children I adopted were a sibling group, and my CASA was like, wow, she was like Elliot Ness. She played detective. She went out in the trenches. My CASA would be out there just really finding out pertinent information to ensure the children's safety.
Cases where CASAs have had huge impacts. One comes to mind where a child had a father in another state that was not the legal father, and the father was not even aware of the child until sometime into the child's life. It was a situation, the father was very interested. The CASA, at their own expense, went to that state, met with the father, and evaluated the father's home, came back, made a wonderful report.
The parents have a position, the state of Georgia has a position, and CASA fills in that huge gap. Other thing I'd say about the importance is that the juvenile court would not function without a CASA program.
People sometimes lose sight is that the lawyers involved in cases seldom want the judge to know everything for one reason or another. CASAs do not have that. They're there for the children. They work for the children.
Our CASA volunteers go through extensive screening and pre-service training. They participate in 30 hours of classroom work and 10 hours of courtroom observation. Our CASA volunteers are very dedicated to their role of advocating for the children and youth. In the past 10 years, our CASAs have spent more than 37,000 hours in their advocacy work and have driven more than 375,000 miles as they investigate and advocate for the children. Our CASA volunteers' time, dedication, and commitment are simply above and beyond most volunteer opportunities. They truly have a passion for what they do.
I had a child a couple years ago, an older child, he was 12 or 13. When he came into care, he had basically been taking care of his younger brother. Mother was an alcoholic. He didn't have any boundaries. He had very little guidance at home. He was a smart student at school, which was surprising. He moved into a foster care system, a wonderful family. This child had started to go on the dark side. A lot of negativity, was down on everyone, trusted no one. But the big pivotal point was this foster mother and I worked together with him and changed so many aspects of the way he looked at life, the way he looked at people, and started to trust again. Today, he is thriving on the football team, lots of friends, great at school.
A child that I helped early on when I first became a CASA was a family that was struggling with housing. So I was able to partner with them to locate some good housing, stable housing, something that was safe for them and their family. And I keep up with all my children, even once the case is closed. Saw them in Walmart, and they all got out of the truck together. It looked like almost a clown car. They all come rolling out of the car together. But what impressed me was that as they got out of the car, they all held hands and walked together into the store. That tells me that they're certainly in a better place.
My CASA worker is named Jeff Sprinkle, and I just would say that it'd be good to have a guy named Jeff Sprinkle because I like his name also. Having a CASA kind of makes me feel more protected since I know that I have someone that I know specifically in court for me. Just having him be there and him communicating between me and my sister that I didn't really get to talk too much. And I just really care about my sister, so I wanted to know if she's actually okay, if she's having a real family, and I want her to know that I have a family and that I'm okay. And one year I had a birthday and he decided to give me a birthday present. And so I had a homecoming coming up, so I was just so excited. So I had to get my hair done and my nails done, and he actually paid for it. He gave me a birthday card that said "You rock" on it, and so I was like, awesome, I rock. And so I just felt better about myself, saying if somebody else thinks I can be beautiful too, then I guess I can be beautiful for everybody else too.
I can't imagine doing what the CASA volunteers do. It takes an extraordinary amount of time and emotional commitment. I feel very good about what has happened in the last 10 years. I'm grateful and feel proud of being part of an organization that in 10 years has gone from a startup in 3 counties to serving nearly 100% of the children in foster care in 8 counties. Being part of ensuring that hundreds of children have their voices heard and their needs met is gratifying. Knowing that this will be sustained because of the strength of the Northeast Georgia CASA program and its volunteers is a good feeling.
We feel good that because of our volunteers, more than 800 children have had a strong voice in court and had their needs met while in foster care. Northeast Georgia CASA's success has been built on a strong volunteer board of directors, a competent and caring staff, adequate financial resources, and most importantly, our committed CASA volunteers. As we continue to reach out to meet the ever-growing and changing needs of the foster children in our community, we will always need more financial resources and more volunteers.